Hey, nerdy sports fan, we're into week 12 NFL action, and the Giants are going to pay a visit to the Chicago Bears this week. Um, should be interesting. Um, the Bears, they've been good and bad. Their defense has not been as dominant, primarily because Khalil Mack hasn't been as dominant. I mean, he's not exactly taken over games like he did last season. I don't know why. It's not like he's less talented. He might be injured. A lot of teams, a lot of good players will not disclose the full severity of an injury that a player is dealing with. You see this a lot, okay? You'll hear, oh, well, such and such player was fighting this sort of injury all season. And, you got that kind of action out of Cam Newton's camp a lot. So who knows? Mac might be dealing with some sort of strain or something that needs off-season surgery, like a ligament or something of that nature. And he might be dealing with something, but he's definitely been cold. He's not been dominant. Because of that, the Giants have a chance. They're definitely the weaker team personnel-wise, in spite of the flaws that the Bears have been shown to have. They still can't find a kicker, and their quarterback is a train wreck. Their offensive line can't block for said train wreck quarterback, and they needed their defense to be dominant this season if they wanted to win. We all thought the offense was going to take a step forward, developing quarterback, getting better in a system, other young offensive talents, improving, and that just never manifested. So, yeah, which bad team do we choose? That's what we're going with here. I think the Bears have it. They're at home. A young quarterback playing in a hostile environment, going up against a defense that's got some real teeth. I just don't see the Giants pulling this one out. Saquon Barkley is hurt. There's something wrong with that man right now. They're not holding him out, shutting him down. I don't know why. But, what was the stat line? 13 rushing attempts for a yard a few weeks ago? Just, that's not a thing for Saquon Barkley. There's got to be something wrong. So, him going to Chicago to go up against this defense with a young quarterback in Daniel Jones, who's starting to show more flaws now than he was in his earlier weeks in the season, I just don't see it happening. Daniel Jones is better at this point in his career than Mitch Trubisky is. But Daniel Jones' supporting cast is not as good as Mitch Trubisky's is. That's the difference here. If I thought Saquon was fully healthy, this might go the other way. But fantasy football-wise, in this game, the main person for the Giants should end up being Golden Tate. He's been the safety blanket receiver since coming back from suspension. And, Evan Ingram being hurt has helped that a bit too. We'll see if he's full strength this game. But this sort of defense does pretty well against tight ends. So I wouldn't really see that being much of an issue for him anyway. You really, again, should focus more on Golden Tate from the Giants. I picked him up a few weeks back, and I tend to pick up players like that around their bye week, because when you have enough of a feeling in somebody to be very good for the stretch run, not necessarily the greatest at the beginning of the season, you can pick those guys up later in the season, usually when they have a tough opponent or a bye week and other people drop them in favor of filling their roster. You can snap those guys up, and that's exactly what I did. I highly recommend picking up Golden Tate. I think he's going to be a consistent receiver the rest of the season, always putting up 10 to 15 points pretty easily in standard scoring. Saquon's hurt. This isn't the best game for him, but I mean, you still start him. Okay, he's still Saquon. He's probably only going to be consistently putting up flex numbers, though. So look at your roster. Look at players like Scarborough and, who's the other? There was another ad for this week. It'll come to me. Williams. So those two running backs, injury replacement guys from Indianapolis and Detroit. And I would go hard at them right now because those offenses are built to put a lot of numbers through the running back position. And if you have an issue like this where, your top guy is hurt and not producing, so we have Saquon Barkley and David Montgomery in this game. Barkley, again, I think he's hurt, but Montgomery's not been producing a damn thing. And for whatever reason, estimators at Yahoo and ESPN and NFL, depending on what provider you use for fantasy football, are still projecting him to have relatively good point totals. He's had a couple of good weeks. That's it. He's not going to average out well. So this is around the time you start thinking about dropping David Montgomery too. I had him on my roster on one of my teams, so don't feel so bad. He should have been better. He really should have been better, but this offense took a step back. So between Williams and Scarborough, again out of Detroit and Indianapolis, as injury replacements for their primary running backs, which don't seem to be coming back anytime soon, these are the kind of guys that carry you across the finish line for the playoffs. So dropping Montgomery and maybe benching somebody like Barkley for a week or two until you figure out what's going on with his injury status, how things have gone for the past few weeks for him. That's an okay thing to do. Start the Bears defense. This is easy pickings for them, I think, against a young quarterback. They'll get some turnovers. They'll get pressure. Regardless of what's going on with Khalil Mack, the rest of the squad really still is pretty stout. That's pretty much it. This is more a story about who to avoid than who to start, fantasy football-wise. As far as the line goes, the Bears are favored by 6. I think that's about right. But they're not really good. They're not really dominant. They can't be. They've not been anywhere near consistent on offense in order to be considered in any way dominant. So I'd probably bet the Giants to cover. 6 points is a bit steep for a team like Chicago that's been as bad as they have during this season. So, I would bet the Giants to cover. Hit me up in my other videos for more fantasy football advice, and like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, guys.